All right, everybody, welcome back to session number 2 of the Due Diligence Workshop. So today is going to be all about going over the due diligence checklist, as well as some forms, and we'll talk about some actual on-site physical inspection stuff, how to document some of that stuff. And then next week, we will finish the workshop with lease analysis. So I may mention leases today, but we're actually going to dig into leases. We're going to take from a property that we did a few years ago. We're going to take the leases that we got from that, and we're actually going to analyze those leases and put it into a spreadsheet and see when leases expire, see what the rents are, and see all that stuff. So you guys can see how that works out. That will be next week. This week is all about the due diligence checklist, the exterior inspection form, interior inspection form, and getting your property inspected so you can start to put that business plan together. So as you can see in front of us, we have the due diligence checklist that I provided. I did create this checklist. I built it based off of the strategic analysis model that is taught by CCIM. Put your seller's name here, the phone number, property address, date you start your due diligence, the date it's due. So you have on your contract, you guys got to remember that there is a clause in almost every contract I've ever seen that says time is of the essence. That means if you miss any of the timing that is stipulated in the contract, then you have the potential for the other party getting out of that contract if they want out of it. They don't have to, but they have that right if you miss any of the timing. Same thing for you. If they miss any timing that they agreed to, that is also a way for you to get out of the contract. Okay, now that changes if you have non-refundable money down, so you need to be careful of that. All right, so date due by is whenever that due diligence period expires within that contract, and of course, the date that you have completed it. So here under financial analysis, we've got past 3 years of profit and loss. Stoney, why do we ask for prior 3 years? You are muted.
You want to see trends. You don't want them to see maybe packing up the units at the last minute to present themselves as having a good, normal vacancy when they might not have had that, other things like that, one-time expenses and things like that.
Okay. Any other reason?
Would it also be that's what your lender would want to see?
Yes, Roger, that's exactly right.
Not true. Yeah.
We want to see the trends, exactly like Stoney said.
Yeah.
And the lender is going to require 3 years of financials.
Yeah.
So we want to go ahead and collect all of that. So the date we received those items and the date we reviewed them. You also want a year-to-date P&L. Now, if you've got a T12, then this that will cover the year-to-date P&L, but it will not cover the last 3 years. So it'll either be year-to-date or it could be T12. So when I created this, we really didn't have T12s that were readily available in the marketplace at the time. This is 2014, 2015 when I created this. Rent roll for current and past 2 years. Now, that is if you want to see trends. Me personally, I just need the current rent roll. I don't need to see the past 2 years. But there are people that I know some people want to go all the way back 3 years. That's a lot of rent rolls to look at. It's a little bit of a waste of time. You can really, if you take your current rent roll and if you have a T12, you can go to the month of that rent roll and you can verify the income from the rent roll that is on the income of your T12. And that is a way you can identify, going all the way back 12 months, a 12-month rent roll by what you're seeing from the current rent roll to what they put in the T12. So you really don't need all those rent rolls, but there are people that ask for them. The lender does not require all those rent rolls. Past 3 months of bank deposits. Why do we care about that? Why do I want to see the last 3 months of bank deposits?
Make sure people are paying their rent.
Yeah, that could be one. It has to do with that, Roger, but there's a more specific reason.
Okay.
So when we look at the rent roll and we look at the P&L or the T12 and we see that there is an amount collected, we want to make sure that that amount collected matches the deposits going into the bank. That's why we're checking the last 3 month deposits, because they could be fudging the numbers, because what does Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac require? They just require the last 3 months of income. So that's why we go back 3 months for checking the bank deposits against what was on the T12. Make sense?
Yeah.
It's a checks and balances. Okay, we want all existing leases. Stand by 1 second. I'm going to pause just for 1 second. All right, so all existing leases. That's every current lease on the property. Do we care about any previous leases? Should we care about any previous leases? This is called a workshop. This is interactive. I will sit here all day and wait for you to answer.
Well, we would be interested in trends, but you would see that elsewhere. So I don't know that you necessarily need the leases for that. Or
Right.
do
Yeah.
you?
All
do?
we need are current leases. Any lease prior, if the person's moved out,
Yeah.
who cares if they were evicted? Who
Yeah,
cares why they moved out? It's not going to be on the lease anyway.
Yeah.
Don't care. Irrelevant information. You only need current leases. Existing loan documents. That is only if you are assuming the loan. If you are not assuming the loan, you do not have the right, nor do you need to see the existing loan documents. They are irrelevant to your situation. Don't ask for them. Okay? That's a big mistake done by a lot of new investors, is they'll ask for existing loan documents. And the property's being offered free and clear of all encumbrances, which means the loan is not assumable. So if the loan is not assumable, you do not have a right to their loan documents. Don't ask for them. It's irrelevant information anyway. You're going to get a new loan. Their loan means nothing to you, has nothing to do with the NOI. Okay? But it's there in case it is a loan assumption, which right now seems to be the tactic for purchasing properties today. Security deposit account statement. Why do we need that? Aren't the security deposits on the leases?
Verify that with the bank deposits.
There you go. Because when it's all said and done and you get to the closing table and you're asking for a certain amount, that amount needs to be in the bank. So they're sending it to you. So we need to verify that those are correct. Utility bills for the last 12 months. What we're doing here is we're trying to see trends in the utilities. You may not really be able to see it. You can see changes in prices, but you won't see reasons why. So you can kind of see where you had spikes in different months on different energy costs with the utility bills. And this is where we can start to try to create efficiencies. Maybe we go with some low flow faucets that can reduce those utility bills, especially if we're paying the utilities and you have some kind of rubs or something like that. So you can put in those low flow faucets, and there's some other measures you can do If they have a car wash station, maybe you remove the car wash station because that will increase your common water that you are responsible to pay. Or you put only open on certain days or something like that, so you can limit that exposure. So that's what the utility bills will do. Property tax bill. What can we do with the property tax bill? Obviously, we want to see it, but what can we do with it when we get it? It's obviously not going to be the same tax we're going to pay. Our tax is going to go up. We know that unless we're getting a discount for this property, which coming soon to a theater near you may be the case. But let's assume right now you're paying more than what the property was purchased for 5 years ago, 3 years ago, whenever. Let's say we're paying a little bit more. So our tax bill is probably going to go up. How can we use that tax bill to our advantage?
So when we underwriting the deal, it will, add to our expenses.
Yeah, how can you use it to do that, Morgan? You don't want to put the current tax on there that's on that tax bill. So how can you utilize that tax bill to create a new tax that it might be? It doesn't mean it will be, but it'll get you within the ballpark.
So from current tax bill, you will see the assessment value, and you can use that, the percentage of the land and the improvement, and you calculate improvement, you can get some other information, for example, your future cost recovery, and not just future tax, that's what I see.
We don't need to worry about the after-tax strategy with cost recovery. Right?
Okay.
But what we can do with that tax, and you're on the right track, is you'll have assessed value, then you'll have the what's it called, the millage and all that information on there. So all you have to do is reverse engineer the numbers. You start with the tax, and you take the tax and you divide it by the millage. That gives you that ratio. Then you take and you divide that number by the assessed value. And you may even have appraised value and assessed value. So that appraised value will be the overall value of the building and the land. Your assessed value will be the value of the building. Then you'll have your millage rate, and then you'll have your tax. So if you just reverse engineer it backwards, you can get to what the ratios are. So now you take your purchase price that you're buying it for, you multiply it times that ratio to get to the assessed value, and then multiply that ratio from assessed to millage rate, and then from millage rate to tax, and you can have your future tax rate. So we use it to reverse engineer to get us to our tax rate. Now, once you've done that, you also want to call the assessor's office and verify how close your numbers are, because we want to be pretty close on that. Okay.
David.
Yes.
So if the property is be purchased from auction, so can we lower down the tax bill after we purchase?
Yeah, you can. If you're getting it cheaper than the current property value or current appraised value on the tax bill, yes.
Okay, so I was wondering if we can change the tax or not, because each county, they have their own to change the tax.
Which is why you reverse engineer the numbers and then call the assessors to see what the assessor is going to do.
Okay.
Reverse engineering the numbers gets you to a point where you can get your pro forma done, especially before you go into due diligence. While you're in due diligence, call that assessor. Verify it.
But some single family home, some counties just assess like
But
5
we
years.
don't do single family here. We don't care about single family here. This is multifamily.
Yeah, I know, but so it's different. So it's based on the each transaction, they will change the tax bill. Is that right?
Correct. That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. One other thing on tax bills, in some areas, like in Mobile, you don't get reassessed for 2 years. you still have to put in year one that new tax amount. That's what the lender is going to require. So you put that new amount, even though you don't have to pay any tax in the first year. It's crazy what they do here. It's actually kind of cool, but it's because it's paid in arrears. You don't have anything to pay in arrears in year one. You didn't own the property in arrears. So you get like a free year of tax in Mobile. But the lender still requires you to put that tax in year one. All right, service contracts. This is all like laundry contracts, your landscaper, if you have any washer and dryer contracts with the washer and dryers in units, any kind of contract that you have with a vendor, we want to receive all those contracts. We want us or an attorney, if you have an attorney, to read these contracts to see if you can renegotiate them or get out of them. Some of these contracts, like with what do they call CoinMac, that provide washer and dryers for your laundry room. They have almost a bulletproof contract that contract runs with the sale of the property. If you have a CoinMac contract, then you need to contact CoinMac and start that renegotiation before you purchase the property, because once you purchase the property, you are agreeing to that contract, and that's how it's written in it. And again, that's why you need an attorney to look at that. So be careful with these service contracts, because you may get stuck with them assuming that you can change the contract, renegotiate, or fire them and get somebody else. You may actually not be able to do that. In order to do that, you may have a cancellation fee that you have to pay. So you're going to want to know that information. Roger, do you have a question? No? Okay. Payroll register. If there is employees on the property, you want to see a payroll register. What are they being paid? What are their benefits? Everything that is on payroll taxes, all of it. You want to make sure that those payroll taxes have been paid. You do not want to be responsible for having to pay the payroll taxes, especially if you're buying it in the middle of the year. You definitely don't want to be responsible for their payroll taxes in the previous 6 months. So make sure those payroll taxes are getting paid. Payroll taxes, one of the easiest ways to land yourself in a nice 12 by 12 if you're not paying it. For whatever reason, the IRS really seems to care about payroll tax. They don't monitor a lot of the other stuff, but they love that payroll tax. If it's an offsite management company, we don't care about their payrolls. Okay, that has nothing to do with us. They bill us for some things for payroll and things like that, but that doesn't have anything to do with anything we're responsible for. That's more of a vendor contract. Insurance policy and claim history. The policy itself isn't a big deal. It's they call it a it's not called a loss report. It has loss in the name. I'm trying to remember the name of the report we're looking for. I think it's just called an insurance loss report. And what they're looking for is the last 3 years. Have there been any insurance claims? Okay. So you're definitely going to want to get that. Your new insurance provider that you're getting insurance through, they will tell you how many years they want. Typically it's 3. The actual insurance policy itself is irrelevant unless you plan on assuming that policy. Make no mistake, it's going to go up. Capital improvement logs. We just want to take a look at that so we can see what capital improvements have been made. And when we do our inspection, we can see what still needs to be done. And from getting that improvements log, we can see what they've done. And that way we can look at the quality of work that they're doing. And that gives us an idea, especially if they did a lot of inside the wall stuff. If the outside stuff looks bad, inside those walls are probably going to look as bad or if not worse. So that can help you make a decision on whether you want to move forward or not. Maintenance log. Why do we need the maintenance log? Now, this is off-site or on-site. Either way, we want the maintenance log. Why do we need the maintenance log? You want the maintenance log for the last 12 months. Why?
You want to make sure that they're keeping up with preventative maintenance, David. I would think.
That's one. Yep, absolutely. Why else? What about existing tickets?
Yeah, code violations, etc.
Well, just open maintenance tickets, open maintenance logs. We'll look at code violations later in the checklist, but we want to see open, especially the opens, what hasn't been completed yet, and when was the ticket issued, and how long has it been since it was issued, and why is it taking so long? This really becomes important if you intended to use the same management company that's currently managing the property. So this will give you a good idea of how they're managing the property. But the most important thing with the maintenance log is looking at the last 12 months, see if you have something that's repeating. So if you have a lot of plumbing issues, maybe we got some plumbing problems on this property. If you have a lot of recurring electrical issues, maybe we got electrical problems, a lot of recurring HVAC issues, things like that. So it gives us trends so we can see what systems are failing because they're constantly, maybe not in the same apartment, but throughout the property. That shows a very aging system. And the other is the open maintenance tickets. That's probably the biggest thing. And that falls right in line with the incomplete maintenance requests. That's the part of that maintenance log, knowing what is still open, how long has it been open, why hasn't it been fixed yet? And you may be able to add an addendum to the contract at this point that you do not purchase this property until all those maintenance requests are completed. All right, market analysis. Our market rent analytics, our market vacancy analytics, under construction's permits issued, absorption, jobs announced, population growth, industry mix, path of progress, and local government economics. Okay, so we've talked extensively about market analysis. So I'm not going to go into the market analysis part of the checklist here. You guys have an idea of how to do each of this and what it's for. Here's the date you're scheduling it to be completed. Here's the date it was completed. Here's any costs associated with doing any of these analysis, especially if you hire somebody like me to do it for you. Location and site analysis. This is where we're going to spend the most time today. Initial site inspection. Okay. So initial site inspection is you really don't need an initial. Well, okay. So initial is when you're going to go do all your inspection items. At the end, you have a final walkthrough prior to closing. So initial site inspection is you're heading to the property to inspect it. Try to do it all at one time. If you have 150 units, you're going to inspect all 150 units, every one of them. Okay. Vacant, occupied, doesn't matter. People home, who cares? Make sure that the management company has sent out notices to enter the units on the days you plan to enter. If it is a large property like that, you're probably going to need to do it over a 2 or 3 day period, maybe even over a full 5 day period of a week. It's up to whatever your timing and the management company's timing allows for. We were able to do the last due diligence I did was it last year or year before? I think it was the year before. It was an 80 unit apartment community. We had 3 teams working on it, and we were able to do all 80 units the same day. But we started at 8 in the morning and we didn't finish until 5:30 in the afternoon. So it took all day to do 80 units. So if you have 2 people that are doing the physical site inspection, it'll take you 30 to 40 units a day. So if you have a 160 unit apartment complex and there's only 2 people doing on-site inspection, you better plan 4 full days in order to accomplish that. Okay. And that doesn't include the lease analysis and everything else you have to do on top of that. So we're scheduling the site inspection, coordinate that with the management company, coordinate it with the broker if a broker is involved, coordinate it with the owner if there is no broker involved, and if you've identified who your property management company is going to be, have that new property manager and maintenance person from their company. If it's a small property, if it's on site, the manager or the maintenance guy that's going to be on site or gal, have them with you so that they can also see everything, so that they can budget properly for operations. Date you complete it, and then any costs that were associated with it. Property condition assessment. If you're doing Fannie, Freddie, agency, some other permanent lenders are requiring this now, but primarily Fannie, Freddie, they will require a property condition assessment. Do not rely on the condition assessment in lieu of your on-site inspection. Your on-site inspection has priority. The property condition assessment is for your lender. Now you can look at it. It's going to be crap, but you can look at it. They are only going to survey 10% of the units. So if you have 160 units, they're only looking at 16. That is nowhere near enough units to look at to determine, because guess who gets to pick those units? The property management company that's currently operating the property. That could go wrong really quickly. Okay, so do not allow your inspection priority to be that property condition assessment. Okay, that's just for the lender. The phase 1, 2 environmental inspection. So there are 3 phases to an environmental inspection. And again, this is agency required. I would recommend getting it anyway if you are near any commercial properties. If you're not near a commercial property, or up in the Northeast where they used to bury oil tanks for heat, then I wouldn't worry about it. If you're in the Northeast, you probably want to get a phase 1 or a phase 1 and 2 done anyway, because they love to bury fuel tanks up in the Northeast. Don't they, Roger?
Absolutely, big time. We're still digging them out, David.
So you don't want to be responsible for that contamination, because over time they open up. And when they open up, that contaminant leaks into the soil, and now you're responsible for remediation. If you own the property, you do not want to be responsible for remediation. That is the most expensive thing on a property, is remediating hazardous materials out of the soil. So a phase 1 is research. That's all it is. You can do a phase 1 right now by going to netronline.com and looking at any county in the country, type in an address, and it'll tell you any reported hazardous claims within 1 mile of the property. That is a phase 1. So you can do the phase 1 yourself. Phase 2 is if there is contamination within 1 mile of the property that has been reported, then there must be a sampling of the soil. So I don't know if you guys have ever seen the little canisters. They're about 3 inches round. They're about 12 inches long, and they shove them into the ground. And the inspectors will come out and they'll pull the canisters out and they'll take soil out of it and they'll shove it back in. That is your phase 2 environmental inspectors doing that. It's not that expensive. There is a little bit of cost to it. I think the last time I paid, and usually the same company that does the property condition assessment will also do the phase 1 and the phase 2. The last time I paid for one, because the property was right next door to a grocery anchored retail center that also had a cleaners. So they did the phase 2. netronline.com, Mario. I want to say the cost was only $2,500 for the environmental report, and that was for a 48 unit apartment complex. Okay. So it's not that expensive. Remediation, if they find contamination, then it requires phase 3. Phase 3 is bad. That's remediation. That can run you 6 figures plus. We're talking big dollars, depending on how bad the contamination is. So that's not what you want. All right. So if you are around a retail establishment that there could be potential, like a gas station, a cleaners, stuff like that, a car wash, those all leak contaminants. Or if you live in the Northeast and you've buried tanks. So you don't want to do that. Where were we? Florida. You can no longer bury a tank in Florida. I think a lot of states are going that way. I only know that because when I lived in Orlando, we were upgrading our fuel system. I was a helicopter mechanic for Air Care, which is the air ambulance helicopter company or the medical professionals. We provided the helicopters. We were the company for the Orlando market. We had 3 helicopters on 3 different hospitals. The main hospital, ORMC, Orlando Regional Medical Center, which is the trauma center right in downtown Orlando, the helicopter pad was on the roof, and ORMC, I think, was either 9 or 13 stories tall. And so we had this big, massive tank that was right next to the emergency room fuel tank that ran up to the roof so we could refuel the helicopter. Well, the hospital that wanted that ugly eyesore gone. So our solution was we'd bury it. Well, then Florida came out with a new EPA regulation that said, yep, nope, you cannot bury any fuel tanks anywhere in Florida. So the hospital had to deal with it. They couldn't get rid of the fuel tank, or they got rid of the helicopter because we had to have a way to refuel. So that's how I know that. So be careful with your regulations, especially if you're doing any kind of ground up development or you want to add additional services to a site. Make sure you understand what has to be above ground or underground. There are some where you can't have contamination tanks above ground. They want them underground. So you just got to figure out where those are. All right. Cost seg analysis. Why in the world are we going to do that? Why do we do a cost segregation?
Well, because you're going to get certain components of any building that you can get an accelerated depreciation on.
What are those components, Roger?
Oh, it'd be things like, I guess, furnishings, cabinetry, appliances.
So you can't get it on cabinetry because cabinetry is considered real property, but anything considered personal property.
Personal property. Thank you. Yes.
So what is it called in the residential world? Starts with an it's a sheesh. I can never remember what it is. Anyway, it's your water heaters, dishwashers, HVAC units, things like that. Stuff that can be removed and reinstalled. That's personal property. If you have awnings on the outside of a window or window shades, the shutters, window shutters, they can be mechanically removed and reinstalled. They're not considered part of the structure itself. We can have an engineer come out and they will put a value to each of those items, and then anything in the interior of the building is a 5-year depreciation. So instead of depreciating that hot water heater for 27.5 years, like would be a normal depreciation, you can depreciate it for 5 years. The awning that's on the outside, or your shutters that are on the outside of the windows that can be mechanically removed. Now, if they are screwed into the structure and they're there for facade only, then those do not qualify. They actually have to be shutters that work. And Anything on the exterior is 7 years, and then anything that is landscaping is 10 years. So those are your depreciation schedules. So like your parking lot, the cement stops for parking lots, you can depreciate those over 10 years. Shrubs that you bought and installed, any palm trees that you bought and installed, those are 10-year items. Okay. The reason we do it is, again, for not bonus depreciation, for accelerated depreciation. Now, is there a time we don't want to do a cost seg analysis? The answer is yes, but why? Of course, you won't have any syndicators that know this because they were never taught this. They're just told, get a cost seg. How long do you have to operate the property to get the full benefit of the cost segregation analysis? Do you guys know? Anywhere from 5 to 7 years. So in order to get the full benefit, get all those 5-year items done, get that depreciation and get it gone, in order to get the full amount or full benefit of the cost seg, because you're going to pay, we did a cost seg on a 40 unit deal, cost us $24,000 to have it done, but we saved in taxes over $175,000 because of it. So it's well worth it. The problem is, if you sell too fast and you get rid of the property, you have to recover, cost recovery. So in order to do the cost benefit analysis on the tax you pay on the cost recovery, because the IRS, they're giving you all of this depreciation, but guess what? When you sell the property, they're taxing you on all the depreciation you took. So in order for you to benefit from that and it not cost you more in tax than it did to get the cost seg done, you need to own that property for 5 to 7 years plus. So all of these syndicators that are doing bonus depreciation and cost seg analysis and selling in 2 to 3 years, they are losing big time. And I'm talking big time. You are better in a situation like that to take the straight
line.
Brain fart, because we're talking after tax here. When you sell the property, you owe capital gains. You're better to take the capital gains tax than you are cost recovery, because capital gains is only taxed up to a maximum of 20% if you're holding the property short term. When you do cost recovery, you're paying up to 25%. So you'll pay more in tax for cost recovery than you will for capital gains. So be very careful with that. Now, again, if you hold it 5, 7+ years, it's worth it. But if you're not, you should, and your cost seg engineers will tell you, if you're not holding this 5+ years, you should not be doing a cost seg. Just doesn't benefit you. You'll spend more on tax and getting it done and wasting the time to do it than it will be to hold the property and just take your capital gain. All right, again, tour every unit. Now, there's a process to touring every unit, and I'm going to show you here in a minute how you can do that. We're actually going to go, and I'm going to show you some pictures I took at a due diligence on an inspection, both exterior and interior, and how I took them. And I'm going to show you a Word document on how we documented everything. So we'll kind of end with all that, but I want to get through this first. Am I digging too much into this, or is this helpful?
No, it's good. I would like to just go a little further on your depreciation recapture, David. Do they actually recapture everything that you've claimed, or do they tax what you've reclaimed.
No. So they recapture
Yeah,
every dollar claimed.
yeah.
Once you have that recapture amount, that amount is taxed up to 25%.
Oh. Oh.
So when you do bonus depreciation and you get it all in 1 year, not 5, 7, and 10 years, you get everything, all your personal property, all in 1 year, and you sell that 2 years later, you're paying 25% on all that money you recaptured.
So the recapture is actually the full amount plus the 25%?
No, it's the full amount taxed
Tax
at
at 25%.
25% of the full amount.
Because that's the benefit they're giving you.
Correct.
Got it. Thank you.
Good question, Roger. All right, so we'll talk about units in a minute. Roof inspection. Are you going to do the roof inspection? And if not, how are you going to have the roof inspected?
Use a drone. Helicopter.
That is what a lot of, what are they called? Home inspectors are doing these days.
I know.
So they don't have to climb on roofs as they are droning. But will a drone let you know if any of the roof planks are weak or rotted?
Well, well, it wouldn't, but would anything? It begs the question, would anything?
Yeah, if you walk on the roof and you damn near put your foot
feel
through
it stopped? Yeah.
you can put brand new shingles over bad sheathing.
True,
Still going to leak.
true.
Okay.
Yeah.
So who's going to do your roof inspection? You going to do it? You going to hire a home inspector to do your 150 unit apartment complex? Or hell, even your 10 unit apartment complex? Are you going to hire a home inspector? Shake your head like this. I'll give you the answer.
You'd probably want a roofing contractor, wouldn't you?
You want a roofing contractor. Yes. You want somebody that specializes in roofs to inspect your roof. Any of these specialized services, you don't really need a report from them. You just need a verbal, how'd it look? Have them take some pictures, send you the pictures. It may cost you a little bit. It's going to cost you a hell of a lot less to have it done than it is to find out later it's got to be replaced. If you're requiring a report, or if your lender's requiring a report, or, then you'll pay a little bit more for it. It's still worth it. Have the experts, a roof expert inspect the roof, an HVAC licensed professional inspect your HVAC systems, a licensed electrical contractor inspect the electrical system, a licensed plumber to inspect your plumbing system. If you're playing the game right, and I've done this multiple times, you won't pay a dime for any of those inspections, because you'll let them know, and of course you'll verify this after, because you can be taken advantage of if you're not careful. You let them know that, look, I'm looking for somebody that I can use in this market. This is just one of many properties we plan on buying, and we'd like you to potentially be that go-to person. Would you be willing to help us on this inspection to have the ability to do that? And a lot of them will say yes, because they want the work. Now, the last few years where they've been so damn busy, they can't keep up with work, that probably wouldn't have worked. But the last time I was doing due diligence, 2018, 2017, that was working swimmingly well. I've never paid for any of those inspection services. But you got to be careful, because whatever they find, if you've told them you want them to be the contractor, they're like, now we can do this. This really isn't that bad, but maybe we tell them it is. So you want to verify anything that they find by a second opinion. So then you're just trying to find, like, if it's something wrong with the roof, then you're just bringing in other roofing contractors to say, hey, I got this problem. Can you guys take a look at it? And, they'll either tell you yes or no, and you can verify things. All right. But for all of those systems, you want the experts to do it. the date you schedule it, the date you complete it, and if there was a cost associated with it. What is the difference between a site survey and an ALTA survey? Anybody know? So a site survey or boundary survey is just that. It's just boundaries. They might draw the building on a boundary survey, but typically they don't even do that. They just take and point all the markers and they draw the boundaries, nothing else. An ALTA survey is done in accordance with your title search. So any encumbrances, any easements, the structures, fence posts, trees, everything goes into an ALTA survey. Get an ALTA survey. The difference in cost, the last time we did one on an apartment complex, we did just a site survey because the previous owner had an ALTA survey done. So we made the decision to just do a site survey. The site survey was only $600. We stepped over $1 to pick up a dime. It bit us in the ass. An ALTA survey would have been 5 times that. It would have been $2,500. It would have been worth doing the ALTA survey. Absolutely worth doing, because we had planned to do something with a dog park in an area that had a utility easement that we didn't know about. That ALTA survey would have told us that utility easement was there. Get the ALTA survey. It's a little bit more, but it's worth it. Existing plans and drawings, if they have them. If the building was built in the 60s, 70s or older, they probably don't have them anymore. It's probably been through numerous owners. But if they are available, you want to ask for them. Okay. And you just ask them if they have them available. They'll tell you yes or no. They don't want to hold on to that crap. Tool and supply inventory. So on smaller properties, you may not have tool and supply inventory. On larger properties, you will. You'll find power washers, lawnmowers, weed eaters, pool equipment, all kinds of supplies, materials, tools that will sell with the property. So you want anything that has a serial number, get a serial number on it. Take pictures of all of it so that when you do your final walkthrough and you go into the building where all that stuff is stored, it isn't cleaned out. I've seen that. And then a big freaking dispute occurs over stupid crap, all used junk, basically. So just have good communication with the prior owner. They don't want to keep that stuff. What usually ends up happening is the maintenance guy steals it when they know a property is going to sell. That prevents them, especially if they're there walking the property with you, that prevents them from stealing that stuff because you just inventoried it. And they know you're going to come do another walkthrough and verify all that stuff is there. Pest inspection. What is a big pest in the Southeast? You guys like to invest in the Sun Belt. What is a big pest in the Southeast? There's 2 that destroy buildings. What are they? One destroys the structure, the other destroys the roof.
Yeah, termites down there. I don't know.
Boy, do we have termites. Ooh, do we have termites? Termites love moisture.
Mhm.
But what else do we have that eats the it eats the soffits out of the roofing and then up into the roofing material, which means they can fly.
Woodpeckers.
Formosan. You've probably never heard of Formosan, Roger.
No.
Oh, Estonia. I'd never even heard of Formosan. Oh, they will destroy your roofs. Yeah, so you want anything in a humidity area, you definitely want termite and Formosan. Now, you're not going to be able to get a bond like you can on a single family home. They do not provide bonds, but they will come out and they will do an inspection and they will provide a report and a remediation report if needed. But they will not do a bond, not on multifamily. They stopped that it was around 2016 or 2017 when termite companies stopped issuing bonds on multifamily properties. Do you need to do a termite inspection on a commercial building? Let's say a retail. You need to do a termite inspection on a retail building?
Well, would you assume that they're built of concrete steel? So
Yeah, you got it, Roger. That was a trick question. They're
right.
not made of wood. They don't build them with wood. Code prevents you from building retail with wood. It's required to be iron or concrete.
Right.
Good catch, Roger. That was a trick question. All right. Surrounding property tours. Oh, sorry. We skipped one. Floodplain analysis. How do we do a floodplain analysis?
Check the flood zone, first of all,
Yeah,
Where?
go to
How do you
town.
check the flood zone?
on STDB for me.
Risk meter, right? That's what we
Yes.
use. Risk
Okay, yeah.
Now you guys have to pay for risk meter. We get risk meter for free. Yeah, you have to check the floodplains and the flood zones and see, especially if you're in Houston or anywhere in the Southeast. If you are along the Gulf Coast and you are in a coastal county or anywhere in Florida, you need to do a flood search. Anywhere along any river, lakes, anywhere there's water sources, make sure you do a flood search. Okay. For everybody in this community that is listening to this video, just request one from me and I will pull it from risk meter for you. I just need the property address and I will pull the report for you. Okay. What happens if it is in the flood zone?
Your insurance is going to be very high.
If you can get insurance at all, depending on where it is, some insurance companies may make you jack the property up.
Yeah.
What's the new floodplain? 16 feet. Is that what it is? So you cannot be any lower. The floor structure cannot be any lower than 16 feet MSL. I don't expect you guys to know what MSL is unless you're a pilot. MSL means above mean sea level. So New Orleans is -32 MSL, or at least the lower ninth is. They call it lower for a reason. It's lower than sea level. So mean sea level is what we base everything on. AGL is above ground level. So floodplains are based on mean sea level, MSL. And 16 feet is the 100, is it 100-year or 50-year floodplain? That if you are in that zone, then you must have your structure, the ground floor of the structure must be above 16 feet. So be careful of that. And then surrounding property tours. You will, because you care about your investors, you care about your partners. Now, if you're just doing this by yourself and nobody else, then it's your own risk and who cares what you do. But when you have other people involved that are relying on you to do the right thing, you will walk every comp. I don't care if there's 520 comps. Now there won't be, but if there was, you'd walk all 520. That's ridiculous. That was overkill. I know, I was being flippant. Typically you have somewhere between 5 and 12 to 13, 14, 15 comps. You're going to walk them. Take the time. They don't have to be done same day, but you're going to walk those comps. Just act as a renter if you fit the demographic for the property. If you don't, then just be honest with them. We're purchasing a property in your market. We think this is a gorgeous property. We'd love to take a look at your, take a walk around if you don't mind with you and look at your model units if that would be okay. And they'll typically allow you to do that. I've never had anybody tell me no. In the 12 years I've been doing this, nobody's ever told me no. Okay. Walk your comps and then document them when you get in the car. Don't document them on the property. You can ask to take a few pictures. Don't take hundreds of pictures. Take a few pictures if they allow you. Sometimes they don't allow you to take pictures, and that's okay because you can go online and you can find the pictures online anyway. All right. Now, I'm going to get through political and legal. We may end up going a little bit longer because I'm enjoying what we're doing here. This is good stuff. Prior to jumping into political and legal, I may break this up because we're already an hour into this. I may break this section up into 2 classes. So this one might go 4 weeks instead of 3. But I own the system. I can do what I want. All right. Let's go back to tour every unit. Okay. We're going to start with, where are we at here? Stand by. I'm pulling this stuff up. I have it up. I just got to grab it. It's hidden behind things. While I have this up, I've added a few more resources to the resources download section in the members area. I added, let's see, don't worry about those till we do the lease analysis. I added rent roll analysis. I haven't added these yet. I added deposit analysis, and I added one more. What was it? Walkthrough unit checklist. So the walkthrough, it's not really a checklist. It's this document right here. Okay, where we walked a 64 unit building or 64 unit property and what we found in that 64 unit property. Okay, but we'll go over that in a few. What I want to do is go to images, property images. Let's do the exterior first. So this was a property that we did due diligence on in 2021. When it comes up, these were the exterior photos that I took. If I took a photo, it's because there was something wrong in that photo. So looking at this picture, can you guys identify what might be wrong in this photo?
That cable, it looks like a security camera that's wired from in the middle of the
Who knows
wall.
what the hell that is? Yeah. And then there was some soffit issues
yeah.
up here. Okay, but that's exactly what I was taking a picture of. You're spot on there, Stoney. And then look at this over here. You can
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of see it down in the bottom of the siding, but I think I've got a more close-up of that. Yeah, there we go. There's that close-up. Okay, so that's what you're doing. You don't really care about certain beautification pictures. You're going to get those from the broker anyway. You're taking the pictures of the damage. All right. So what am I taking a picture of here?
The aircon through the window.
Yes, that's exactly what I was taking a picture of. What's that tell you, Roger?
Your electric bill is going to be higher for that unit.
Well, they're paying the electric bill. The tenants are. But what
That's
does a
what it
window
is.
unit tell you?
Yeah,
The HVAC is not working.
exactly.
You can't really see it, but these are the exterior safety lights. What are they missing? They're missing the bulbs, lamps. There's no bulbs in them. All of them, all over the property.
Oh.
There were no bulbs in any of the security lighting.
They were so small, it looked like the bulbs were inside, but I guess
Yeah,
that's
no,
just
it's so
a
I said you
socket.
couldn't see it. Yeah, it's just a
Yeah.
socket. That's all those are, sockets.
I'd be more concerned about that siding bulging.
Right?
What's going on behind that?
Good question. That requires, you got a drain pipe here. You got a water faucet here. It was mounted somehow, some way. It broken here. So yeah, who knows what was going on here? Definitely requires further inspection. And there's that drain pipe coming all the way out this way. The heck's it doing? Oh, and 6-pack of beer sitting there. That wasn't my beer. I'm not a Modelo drinker. What do I care about with this?
Looks like something discoloring is coming out through that drain.
This is a repair.
Yes. Oh, okay.
See the clean concrete here?
Yeah. Yeah.
This
okay,
was a
yeah.
repair. What were they repairing?
The crack.
Nasty crack.
I don't think they were repairing a crack. That's a drain. Why wouldn't you go back with concrete if they were repairing a crack?
Right. That's true.
There was
Yeah.
something wrong in either sewage or drainage that they were repairing. Just requires further information. Got a couple of things going on in this one. This was a 1980s product, $134,000 a unit, by the way.
When you got the window unit, you got that cable.
Yeah, well, I don't know what the hell that cable was. I think it was a water.
Yeah.
Well, what's
you
going
got
on
that-
with this?
You got that little porch there, or
Yes.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
look what's going on here. This won't be the first time you see this. This was presented as a renovated apartment complex. What's going on here?
Retaining walls collapsing.
Yeah. Is that important?
I would think so.
You think?
Yes. Really.
This is just a larger picture of, they built nice stairs.
That's nice. Yeah.
They just didn't do anything with the stupid retaining wall, the one that actually matters.
Really.
Wow.
Look, here's that pipe again. I don't know what the hell's
My
wrong with this
gosh.
pipe. Yeah. Then we got something else, but freaking going all around here. We got another window unit up here. So we got multiple HVAC units that are failing. But what else do you guys notice here? It's kind of hard to see, but if you got a good trained eye, you can see it.
Is it in that railing up there on the balcony?
Which one?
The left of the air conditioning unit?
This one?
Yes.
No,
Yeah, but the
it's the
lower
one
one, the
below.
lower one is sagging.
that's the one. That's
It's
where the
not level.
that's
Oh,
right.
yeah.
And you'll get a closer image of that. Okay, again, just a socket, no light. And you've got, well, I think that's just wiring. There's that same balcony.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, look at the gap from end to end.
Why do we
Mhm.
care about this?
Well, probably the foundation's sinking there.
What else could it, what code violation could we have here? Safety.
Yeah, you're losing height on that end.
What if somebody leans against this?
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
This freaking pipe cracks me up.
Really.
We had a great laugh about that. There's the clubhouse. Great condition. This is a renovated property.
Oh, my.
Wait, look at the pool.
Oh, my.
It's safe to say they didn't purchase the property. I was doing due diligence support with them on this. This wasn't my property. What's interesting about this?
Handrail.
Yeah, it's just it's longer and bowed out.
It's crazy.
There's another image of it.
Where was this? Where is this location at?
Charlotte.
It's a show.
Yeah.
Watch out there, Roger.
Look at this.
Oh, man.
Well, at least it had some semblance of a piece. If you looked at the other one, it didn't even have it.
Yeah, but
Sure.
that
Oh,
post
not
is
that one.
static.
Where's
That's what happened.
this one? This one doesn't even have them. Renovated property. I don't know what's going on here. Look at those nails sticking out.
Think about a safety hazard.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
This is just getting an overall look of how nasty everything looks. Obviously, here you can see we got the handrail extension here, and we don't have it here.
Mhm.
Satellite dishes. That a problem?
Yeah, I just like those things.
No, do not allow them.
Yeah.
Okay, these are all just stairs and banister photos, and then we get into some, okay, that's all the exterior. All right, now let's get into some interior photos. Now, when you're walking the units, take a picture of the unit number. If it doesn't have a unit number and it's got a building letter and a building number and a unit letter, or a building letter and a unit number, take a picture of the building number first, and then the door, and then the building number and the door, and the building number and the door. So you know what unit the following pictures will be in. That's how you can identify it. So when you get back to home, office, whatever, you have a good chronological order of images, that because you may not inspect the units in order. And if you've got multiple teams, if everybody is doing this, you will have a great system in place of all the images of all the units and know what's going on. Okay. And this will really help out the contractors when you're doing renovations. So here is the HVAC unit, the interior HVAC unit. Here we're just getting model number, serial number. If it's got an age on it, this one in this case does not have the manufacturer, date of manufacturer, and neither does the hot water heater, which was interesting. This was one of the only hot water heaters that did not have the date of manufacturer on it. There's something going on there with that smoke detector. At least the smoke detector was there. Majority of the units looked like that. Just old lighting fixtures, laminate counters, nasty cabinets, even though, you know, renovated unit, but look, hey, I've got Silver Mist appliances, the black appliance with the stainless facade face, not necessarily a stainless face. It was just a facade. They were fairly inexpensive and looked really good in apartments. But yeah, renovated unit. Old vanity with old faucets. These are the old style faucets, yet the shower and the guys remember these? Those were very common in the 60s and 70s. So this will give you an idea how old this property is. Renovated units. Just a nasty vent fan. But yet it's got the updated plumbing fixture in the tub. Why didn't you update the vanity? And then obviously, what are they not using to cause this in the sheetrock? What did they not use up here above the...
They're not using the Wonder Board or the Green
Not
Board.
using
That's right, the cement board. Yeah, Wonder Board, cement board, whatever you want to call it. Okay, that's required in a wet area, isn't it?
Mhm.
Okay, so you just identifying these little things. That's just showing a nasty tenant. That's all that is. Okay, next unit, HVAC, hot water. This one's got data manufacturer, June of 2004. You may want to take a better picture than this. It's a little hard to read. Change your glasses, or maybe if you're blind, it'll come into focus if you're blind. But your big deal here is, of course, model number, serial number, and date of manufacturer. So 2021, this hot water heater, 17 years old. Where is this hot water heater? What list is this hot water heater going to go on?
Replace.
Replacement list. It's correct. Because if it's apartment 204, what floor is this? Or 201, what floor is this on? Second floor.
Leaking.
If that hot water heater bursts, what happens to the first floor unit?
Mhm.
It floods. Okay, so there's the combination of the two. You got your HVAC and your hot water heater down here. Isn't that pretty?
Really?
Okay, then unit, remember, I only take pictures of the serial numbers, date of manufacturer, if it's got it, and then any issues in the apartment. So there's a nice newer 2018 date of manufacturer hot water heater. There's the HVAC inside unit. And then we find this in the unit. Oh, you gotta love owners, I'm telling you. 205, same stuff, and then we find that in the unit. This is a renovated property.
Yeah, you keep saying that. but it
I
doesn't
know,
look like
right?
it.
There's no
does this
evidence
show
of
us?
that, Dave.
Right.
What does this show us? What do we got
Water
going?
leak.
Water leak, yeah.
Right. So what is more than likely above this?
A bathtub,
Well,
shower
what
head,
is
Sink,
this?
water heater, maybe. Yeah.
water
Second
heater.
floor.
yeah.
This is a 3-story building. So yeah, probably a sink. Could be HVAC ducting, could be a tub. Typically, if it's a tub, it's going to be above another tub because these units are usually
Mhm.
pretty common all the way up, keeping the cost of construction down. So very interesting that you have all this damage right here. Although I'm trying to think of what I'm looking at here. We got this light right here. That
Yeah.
may be the sink vanity because this looks like a bathroom. Yeah, it is a bathroom. Actually, you know what? That is a tub. That's above. I remember it
It's a
now. That's
tub.
above this
Okay,
tub.
above this tub right there.
Yep.
And
Sure is.
somebody's already had a go at trying to repair that
Yep.
because
Right.
they cut a panel out previously. So it's an ongoing problem.
Yep. Now, good news, bad news here. You got the single diverter valve. Bad news is, how old is that? Is that updated in any way, shape, or form? And look how wavy the tub surround is. Was that
Mhm.
installed correctly? Renovated unit. And again, not using the cement board.
Cement board, wonderful.
Well, at least they update. They didn't use the brush nickel like they did in the tub, but at least they did some kind of updated faucet, but on an old vanity.
Yeah, they updated it to a 1970s faucet.
Right. So those are the types of pictures you take when you're doing your due diligence. It allows you to document the whole process. So utilizing your checklist, utilizing these images, and you've got a couple of different ways you can, a couple of different forms you can use. We had this exterior inspection form. It was just really easy to use. So we can write notes about what we found on roof and fascia, landscape, parking, exterior wall paint, stairs, banisters, windows and trim, electrical service. That's outside electrical service, the main panel. HVAC, office, pool, gym, outside amenities, and of course, ADA, if there was any ADA. Prior to 1986, ADA was not required. It was only required on anything built after 1986. And the units themselves weren't required to have it, but the common areas were after 1986. So you got to be careful of the American Disabilities Act with ADA. Staying on ADA for a minute, some of the rules surrounding that. If a handicap resident wants an apartment, and you don't have any apartments that are available, and that handicap individual will pay for the renovations to have a vacant unit brought to ADA compliance for their specific need. And if they agree when they move out, now you don't ever want to do this, but you do need to make them agree to it. If they move out, that they will pay to have it turned back into a standard apartment. Again, don't ever do that. Keep it ADA. So you always have it. And if they agree to that, then you must rent that unit to them if they are qualified, which means that they also agree to pay for, actually, if it's prior to 1986, then they also have to agree to pay for the common areas that person would be have access to, like the clubhouse and any other laundry room, stuff like that they have to become ADA compliant. So they have to pay for those upgrades. Now, they do not have to pay to turn those back, because once you upgrade a common area, you cannot take it backwards. It must stay upgraded for ADA. Why would you want to anyway? After 1986, it should have been ADA in the first place in the common areas, so they are not responsible for paying for the common areas, but you will be required to bring it up to date. Okay, so that's all I want to say about ADA. I hit my enter button as if this was a slide. So that's all there is to my exterior inspection checklist. Might make any changes to it. I also provided, if that's not enough information for you, which is fine, I also provided IREM's exterior and interior inspection checklists. It is a lot more detailed than mine. Okay. So you have both that you can take from and create your own if you want to. I don't know what these mean right here. The 1S, 1.5S, 2S. If it didn't have the halves, a little gnat flying around me. If it didn't have the halves, I'd say that's 1 story, 2 story, 3 story, 4 story, up to 8, and then other total number of apartments. But I have no idea what this 1S is. That those halves threw me for a loop. So I don't know what that is. And I never asked IREM what it was because I didn't use their report. So character and condition of what you find, any needs, and then any estimated expense that may be involved. So a little more detailed. And they have, of course, their little disclosure at the bottom. So I'm not hiding that this is an IREM report, Institute of Real Estate Management. Okay. So you have both the interior and exterior of that. Where's that? So there is their interior report, does the same thing. One thing I don't like about it is environmental controls. It just says heating equipment and air conditioning units. There isn't anything for hot water heater or anything like that. They do have things for like in the bedrooms. Oh, let me ask you a question. Smoke detectors. Where are smoke detectors required and how many are required?
I think the kitchen and the primary bedroom. I'm not sure.
Every bedroom, I thought.
Or maybe.
So they don't have to be in the bedroom. So if you have 2 bedrooms that are adjacent to each other, yes, then it needs to be in the hallway between those bedrooms. If you have another bedroom on the other side of the apartment, which is common, then you'd have to have another one next to that bedroom. And then anywhere there's near a kitchen. So that's correct. If it has gas hot water heaters or gas stoves, what else is required?
Carbon monoxide.
Carbon monoxide. That's right. A carbon monoxide detector. Have them tested. Okay. The smoke detectors are easy. Carbon monoxide requires a little bit of additional inspection. Have them tested. Most properties anymore, gas has been removed. You're older, like around historic areas, you'll find that they'll still have gas. Like when you get out of downtown and midtown and Mobile, you won't find any gas in apartments. You will in homes. Like I have gas heat in my house, but I don't have gas stoves. But in midtown and downtown, you have apartments that were built in the early 1900s and a couple of them even in the late 1800s that are still standing and are gorgeous properties. They even still have the maid entrances where they couldn't enter through the front door. They entered through a rear door. So there's stairs. If it was a multiple story building, they still have the maid entrances that are still active. The dumbwaiters where the service people could take food and garbage and stuff like that down so you didn't disturb the apartment resident. It's beautiful yet crazy to see on how things were back in the early 1900s, late 1800s. But those buildings still exist and they have gas in them. So we do have some, especially in historical areas. All right, so that's that inspection report. Oh, one other thing, fire extinguishers, are they required? If so, where? If not, why?
Well, wouldn't it typically be a sprinkler system?
Nope.
No?
Only if it was built after, I think it was building code 2012 that introduced sprinkler systems.
Really?
I don't remember the exact building code that introduced that. Anything built prior to that would not be required. So anything built prior to that, what kind do you need fire extinguishers? Well, obviously.
It gotta be yes, right?
So what would be acceptable? Now, this is going to depend on the market. So in Mobile, they will allow and I can't remember the size, but the larger fire extinguisher, you could have it like if you had a ladder or a stairwell. I was about to call it a ladder well, thinking I was still in the Marine Corps. A stairwell that had 2 units at the top of the stairs and 2 units at the bottom of the stairs. So 4 units share a common corridor to get to the parking lot. At the bottom, on a main structure post, you can mount, as long as it was housed so it wouldn't rust or anything like that, you can mount 1 large fire extinguisher. If you did not have that, then you needed to have one of the smaller fire extinguishers. And again, I can't remember what size it is, for each individual unit. Now, what class do those fire extinguishers need to be? You have class A, class B, class C, class D. I think it's class D, which is the one that will do wood, fuel, and electrical. Because you could end up with a wood fire, you can end up with a gas fire, you can end up with an electrical fire. So it'll be a foam type fire extinguisher. Usually it's a powder, like a purple PKP, a purple K powder. What it does is it takes the oxygen out of the fire, which means it's dangerous. So you got to be careful with purple K powder. Anyway, those are the types of fire extinguishers that'll be required. All of this you should know through the health and safety code or from the fire marshal from the local area. So you can find all that information out. So this was my unit inspection: living room, kitchen, bed 1, 2, and 3, bath 1 and 2, depending on how many units were in the apartment. And then any notes. So in the notes section, I'd put my serial numbers and my date of manufacture for my interior, exterior, and hot water heaters. And of course, the property and the date. And well, there's the unit number. I was going to say, did I forget unit number? But it's right there. All right. So simple form, little more detailed with the IREM report. But when you're trying to get through 40 units in one day, this form works well. That other form, not so much. So you just go ahead.
On that, David, that form, do you fill in what the number in that little, on one of those, in those check boxes, like say a footnote number, and then write the note number down below? Is that how you do it?
No, you could put, good, bad, needs replacement, deplorable, excellent, anything to identify. What we like to do is we like to put good, poor, replace. That's what our system was, but it could be anything you want to do. All right. So when you've walked all those buildings, one of the things you want is you want somebody taking notes. All right. So this was a 64 unit we did here in Mobile. These were all the vacant units. And so it was really easy to say, okay, we're going to do full renovations on all these. We found major fire damage in one of them. We were not told there was major fire damage anywhere on the property. And we found one that was in fairly decent condition. So we decided to just do a partial reno on it and reinspect that final walkthrough. Then we had one that had a possible rat infestation because we found rat droppings all throughout the apartment. Right. So you got ceiling damage. So you still have some major stuff that you document on the vacant units. But if you're doing full reno, you don't have to document like you do everything else. So for the rest of the apartments, these just need work. So building A, unit 7 needs a stove and to be cleaned. Currently has linoleum, updated lighting, basic counters and vanity, 3-valve tub, which means it doesn't have the single valve diverter valve, and popcorn ceiling. So these were the kind of notes we took on every single one of the units, and we walked all the units. Okay. 64 total units on the property, and we walked every stinking one of them. And these were all the notes. So now I have all these notes. I have, where's it at? I have all these pictures, interior and exterior. I've got all my inspection reports. Now I can take all that information and I can start to put together a business plan to be able to renovate this property and bring it back up to livable condition. You'll combine that with your lease analysis that we'll do in a later class, because it is, we've been going an hour and a half. I'm going to split the rest of the class next week. We'll do a 4-week class. The last week we'll do lease analysis. So you'll combine your lease analysis when leases are expiring. You can actually say, okay, I got this lease expiring. You've got pictures of the units. So you go and you look at some of the pictures and say, all right, well, this resident's obviously a complete slob and doesn't care about anything. We're probably not going to renew that person's lease. And they were late paying and everything else because you've got their tenant record. And that's one you're not going to renew. So, you know, you can renovate that apartment and when it's going to be renovated. So when you combine the lease analysis with your property inspection, your images and everything else, and your notes, now you've got a great plan you can put together that can be on time. Budget's another issue. So you still have to hire your contractors and everybody else. It's not so hard to be on time, but it is very difficult to be on budget. When you can be both, you know you've done really well. I've renovated one apartment complex where we were on time. No, I'm sorry, we were on budget and we were 1 month late on a 12-month renovation cycle. So that was a total success in my eyes. All right, that's as close as I've ever come to on time and on budget. Any questions? I think we'll stop there for this class.
Where is the member-facing resource page?
All right, so Mighty Networks.
Mhm.
Where's Mighty Networks? Mighty Networks, Strategic Partnering Community, Courses, Due Diligence Workshop, Due Diligence Resources.
Ah, there we go. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I was looking for that.
2 has not been made available yet because I don't have this recording in there yet. But we will have this recording in there, and lesson 2 will be made available by Monday morning. It's usually about the time I put the recording up.
Thank you.
Very good.
I'm going to a gun show. I'm sorry, Morgan, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm wondering, like, this analysis, right? So do you think we need to do the market analysis? It's not in due diligence phase. It's before we sign contract, before we submit a letter of intent. Do you think we need to do the market analysis at that time?
All you're doing is looking at the market analysis and verifying all the details. The one part of market analysis you'll have to do will be drawing your trade area, because when you did the market analysis for the MSA, you can utilize all that employment information, shift share, all of that. But once you get a property that you're identifying you want to put under contract, now you're drawing the trade area and you're getting your comps and that direct competition and your demographics and your floodplains and the crime and everything within that trade area. And so you can do that prior to putting in an LOI. And then you're just verifying that information once you're in due diligence.
Okay, so sometimes when I saw a deal, I just can't draw the line between when to write the letter of intent, or I just want to do as much as the due diligence stuff before I submit the offer of intent.
Well, so be careful with that, because you're only going to get limited access to the property. And you don't want to be talking to city officials or anybody like that about the property until you have it under contract. If you do any of that prior to putting it under contract, you will be ostracized in that community. Brokers won't bring you deals. Owners won't sell to you. You don't want to do any of that until you talk to residents. You don't want to do any of that.
No, we won't
Walk your
have,
comps. You can do that stuff, but
yeah,
do not talk to the city yet. Do not do any of that analysis. Do your market analysis part, not your political and legal. You can do all the market analysis so you can do your initial underwriting so that you can determine whether you want to put it under contract or not. Once you have it under contract, then you can do that political and legal analysis and do your location and site where you're actually walking the property and everything else. You still want to walk a few units vacant, preferably if there are vacant ones. If there's no vacant ones and you have no choice but to do an occupied, try to minimize the number of units and do not talk to residents pre-contract. I'm telling
Yeah,
you, if
sure.
you will be ostracized from the community.
Yeah, we won't talk to the residents. We won't talk to the management, the company. But I just wondering if we need to underwrite the deal before we submit an offer.
Well, of course you have to underwrite the deal, but it's an initial underwriting.
Yes.
Until you complete all your due diligence, your final underwriting is left in the wing because you yet know how much capital expense you're going to do. You have an idea from, if you got it from a broker, the broker's given you an idea of what needs to be done. If you got it direct from an owner, the owner has told you what is left to be done if they were being honest. But once you inspect all the units and you do your roof inspections and your mechanical inspections and your plumbing and your HVAC and your electrical, and you do all of that and your foundations, when you've done all of that, then you'll come up with a renovation plan that may be completely different than what was brought to you to begin with. So final underwriting does not happen until after your on-site inspection is complete.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
I'll tell you, this is just a curiosity question, but in your unit inspections there were no, there didn't seem to be any electrical panels in the units.
There are sub panels in the units.
Yeah, so why didn't you photograph those?
There wasn't a need to. I only photographed them if there was a problem.
Okay.
They were good sub panels. They were General Electric sub panels.
Okay.
Yeah, there was nothing wrong with them.
So there are like 2 or 3 brands of the electrical panel that we need to avoid. Do you remember the brands?
Well, it's one. It's called is it General Pacific? It's something Pacific is the bad one.
Yeah, something like that. It's an old one that's no longer made, or yeah.
Well, it was dangerous.
But yeah.
Yeah. It was recalled. Let's see. Electrical. I never remember the name of it. I've never ran into them.
Federal.
Federal Pacific. Yes, that's it.
There you go. Yes. Yeah.
Thank you. That's correct. Federal Pacific.
So currently, when we purchase multifamily, how many amperage is the best? Is 200, 400, or just 100? I saw some properties only 100 amperage.
100 for like a 2-bedroom is fine in the sub panel, the main sub panel. 200 is probably overkill. Like a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, single family home with a garage needs about 200. So 100 is fine.
220.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And aluminum is fine to the main panel, and aluminum is fine to the sub panels, but you do not want aluminum from the sub panel to the outlets. And any outlets near a water source, like the bathroom, kitchen sinks, things like that, need to have GFCIs, ground fault control indicators.
So David, right now, the solar panel has been promoted, I mean, this year's. If the property had solar panel, how we
don't-
inspect them or
I've
no?
never dealt with a property with solar panels, so I don't have that experience. I'm not going to make something up, so I don't know, Morgan.
Okay, thank you.
You're definitely going to run into that in Democratic controlled areas like California require solar panels now. So you will run into those without a doubt. But I've just in the Southeast, they really don't care about solar panels in the Southeast. I don't know what it is. They don't. Now, Florida has got some solar farms that are amazing. I mean, huge, hundreds of acres of solar farms, because there's, especially down in the Everglades, there's so much sun down there. And there's just massive fields of solar panels, but they're not on the buildings.
Okay, maybe there's no government incentives, I guess. Yeah, but
Good.
here,
Government in Florida and in the Southeast, they stay out of the way. They let people live their lives.
okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Yep. Without getting into a political conversation, that's about the best I can say.
Think Texas.
Good questions. I'm going to stop sharing. Was that good? Was that helpful?
Excellent.
It's great stuff. It's good stuff.
Yes, very good.
This is all from my experience. Can't beat experience. A lot of people, are you currently investing? No, I'm not a moron. Well, that's not to say morons are currently investing. I didn't mean that. Because there are some properties you can find that may work. But just for my risk, they don't. Again, my risk is different than everybody's risk. But I am in talks with a syndication group to potentially partner up, where we bring maybe some resources to students that might be able to get you in a deal or two if you need to, or help with due diligence, on-site inspections and things like that. So we'll see. I'm in conversations with somebody right now, but very, very early. I'm not going to guarantee anything or that anything will even come to fruition, but it's a group I like. I wouldn't do it with a group I didn't like. And they're not some rockers. Just saying.
Yes.
How
Really.
surprising.
Really.
How shocking.
Really. My, oh my.
Me, oh my, oh my.
Yes.
That guy that Gavelli that had the $234 million loan foreclosure. I mean, it was over a $300 million deal. They just foreclosed on another one, 65 million in Houston of his. So that's now five properties, 300 million total dollars.
And wasn't he supposed to have raised capital for a building that he never closed on and never returned the money?
So that's a whole separate, there's actually a lawsuit on that one, a fraud lawsuit. So
Yeah,
they find him liable on that one. He'll go to prison for that one. That's fraud.
that's fraud. Yeah.
Yeah. The guy up in Chicago that is making a comeback. How, I don't know, because when you go to jail for financial crimes, you're banned from the industry. But Mike Morosky, who has been vocal, went to prison for doing exactly that, raising capital for one deal and put the money into another one. Went to prison for it. He lives in Chicago and he's out raising capital right now for a 5-unit portfolio in Tulsa.
I guess people haven't heard of him or something. I don't know.
Oh, he's been very vocal. He's been selling coaching services since he got out of prison. It's no different than what's his name? Wolf of Wall Street, Jordan Belfort. Same thing Jordan Belfort did, but Jordan Belfort's not in the financial industry anymore. He's just teaching it. That's what Mike Morosky was doing. He was teaching it, but now he's getting back into the deals again. So that could potentially, now I don't know the terms of his parole or anything else, but if he was banned from the industry, that would violate his parole.
You've got to think the prospective clients or investors are just, haven't read about him or don't know him. I mean, otherwise, why would they be doing that?
I don't know how successful he's been. I just know
Hmm.
that that's what he's doing. He's the reason I left GOB.
He was in that GOB, huh? Oh, okay.
Yep, they welcomed him back in with open arms, and I was like,
Really?
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Mike's a good friend of Jim, so I said, no, love you, Jim.
Mhm.
Not playing that game. All righty, guys.
Okay.
Any other
All
final
right.
questions?
No, I don't think so. But I need to talk to you about something else, so I'll give you a call.
Well, let's do this. Let's kick everybody else out. I'll stop the recording, and let's have it real quick.
Thank you, David.
Okay.
Stoney, great to see you.